In a world clamoring for connection, the most meaningful messages are found in the quiet. This is The Signal, a show about the craft of writing, the journey inward, and the courage to bring your truest voice to light. I'm Terry Pappy, your host and fellow writer, and I'm here to guide you through the noise to the signal. As I promised already, I'm going to tell you the story of how my writing group came to be. And I'm actually going to cheat a little bit and grab it from another recording of my last podcast, which is called My Solopreneur Life. It's still live if you want to check it out. And this whole writing thing is what made me stop that show and start this one, whereas I was originally going to keep it as a season about writing because so many people just struggle with writing, even with AI helping them, they still struggle, which is good. I'm glad that, human beings are still needed in these instances. So anyway, I'm going to grab the story from this last episode of My Solopreneur Life and drop it in here because I love the way I told it and you're going to enjoy it. What I want to wrap around it is the idea that we don't give ourselves permission to pursue a passion or pursue something that we want to make happen because we allow obstacles or opinions or our own self-limiting beliefs stop us from doing so. What was leading up to this kind of aha moment for me was I had a pretty substantial breakup in my personal life with a very long relationship that I honestly thought was the end-all be-all relationship. And when that ended, obviously it threw me for quite a loop, but it was one of those things sometimes I refer to it as a mercy killing because it forced me to look at where I wasn't happy in my life. In other words, what I had stopped doing or what I wasn't giving myself permission to do as far as pursuing dreams, taking risks, being courageous. And I've honestly led a pretty courageous life in general, but I will be the first one to admit that I also have a lot of limiting beliefs and just things from living life on this planet that have contributed to my thinking and my attitude about how I conduct myself. Not to get into all kind of therapy, psychology, whatever, but I have learned a set of skills and been through some experiences that have enabled me to not overcome it or squash it, but learn that, okay, that's how I think. I'm going to choose something else. When this breakup happened, obviously I was raw and ragged for quite a while, still am to some degree, but it enabled me to reassess my identity, what I wanted to do with my life. It was freeing in many ways. What's interesting and what came out of it was wow, I didn't realize how much I was denying myself pursuing something that I was really always passionate about. And I will tell you more about my lifelong writer's journey in the next episode. Where I'm at now is this is something that lights me up, has always lit me up. But in the past, I've always packaged it as a way to earn a living. My writing has always been I've used that analogy of it's like a motorcycle with a sidecar. It's like my motorcycle was like my marketing business and the sidecar was my writing. But I've self-published 5 books, have a lot of good experience working with editors. I mean, the whole writing world. That again is another episode I'll get into. But I stopped. I was trying to think the other day, why did I stop publishing books? Because it was right in the middle of where I was focusing on my Confident Entrepreneur series. I had the biggest plans. I was going to do this big series of all these guidebooks that poked at all different aspects of being an entrepreneur in the realm of where my expertise lied, which was communications and branding. I did 2 books. I did Guide to Logo Design and then Guide to Selling. And I had a blast writing both, but even the Guide to Selling is actually quite funny. So if you have any issues around selling, you may want to enjoy that one because it's quite funny how I tell my stories of being so resistant to sales and being salesy and all that good stuff. But I stopped, and I don't know whether I stopped that series because a lot of the tactical content that I was offering in my experience, I knew would get dated. And I didn't want to have to maintain or update or constantly be coming behind these books and providing these kind of updates related to technology or just the way people were changing how they marketed and they led communication strategies to grow their business. So I know that that was part of it, but for whatever reason, I stopped writing books. But I kept writing in business. I'd write copy for websites. I'd write copy for presentations. I mean, you name it. If there were words, I was doing it. But I also was packaging it up in tools that enabled my clients to grow their business or become more thought leaders in what their topic or area was. I ended up coming back to this year when all this happened and Verano Writers, I realized that it was time for me to come back to writing books. And I'd always thought, oh, I'll just get back to that when I'm in retirement because it's challenging. I'll be perfectly honest. It is very challenging to earn a living full-time as a writer, especially now when everybody is using AI to solve that equation in their business, essentially. It was one of those things where I also really enjoyed doing the graphics, doing the communications, working with clients, helping them see a vision for what their business could be and helping them articulate messages and put their services into products so they could have so much easier a time in growing their business and getting their clients, right? So that's kind of where I was with everything. And I will tell you this, I have enjoyed doing this work, and I still do it today. I have 3 really good big clients that I do work for every day, and I have to I'm going to squeeze in a podcast recording here in between these 2 projects I'm working on. That will always remain. I'm going to keep doing that and servicing clients as long as I have the capacity to do so. When it came to writing, I really wanted to get back to book writing, and realizing after this kind of personal falling off a cliff moment, I realized that that's what I needed. What I want you to do is think about where you're not giving yourself permission to pursue a passion, a creative passion. And obviously the show is mainly about writing, but it could be any passion. It could be some type of activity or hobby or profession even. There's some sort of barrier that's in your brain that's keeping you from doing so. I always encourage my clients, if they have a full-time job and they want to start their own business, instead of quitting that job and just going whole hog, which some people can do, you have to have the right character to do it. But I encourage them to just start it on the side and just stick their toes in the water, start talking to people, getting the research down and building it. If they can build momentum and find the people with the spear in their chest, meaning a problem they can solve, then they're on their way. And it's just a matter of time before they can actually leave that full-time job and just go run with their business. And I love working with people that give themselves that opportunity to pursue a passion and turn it into a business. My brain is always thinking business. The funny thing is when I was doing a lot of this book writing and in my writers group in Orlando that I'll talk about in the story, I was mainly doing nonfiction because I love being a guide. I love helping people kind of move the needle on things that are important to them and using my own crazy experiences to demonstrate how to do that, or at least how I accomplished it in my clumsy falling down the stairs backwards way. But the one time I actually wrote a fiction book was so much fun. I'm going to insert the recording here so you can hear how this whole Verano Writers group came to be and what a passion it is for me. I love this group. Here I am telling the story on the last episode of My Solopreneur Life. Enjoy. I like to treat myself to Starbucks every now and again. And over the years, there's one that's probably about 3 or 4 miles away. You throw a rock, you hit a Starbucks, right? I got friendly with a couple of the baristas at the window, as I go through the drive-through with the dog and everything. And there was this one barista, her name is Raven. And Raven and I somehow just one day I was coming through and she's like, what are you working on today? Or whatever it was. She was being very friendly and they weren't too busy. And I said, oh, I'm going to be working on I can't remember if it was my podcast or writing or something like that. And come to find out that she was a writer as well. That was like a commonality. And I was like, oh my God, that's great. So we started talking over the visits through the drive-through about writing, and she was exploring a couple different things to do. But anyway, I also came to find out that she lives in my neighborhood, because she said one day, were you out walking Tiger on this street or whatever? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, I saw you. And I'm like, do you live in my community? And she's like, yeah, I live in Verano. So it was just kind of weird how it all happened. This is what I'm talking about, being on your path. So I said, oh my gosh, that's great. I said, listen, if you ever want to write, because I'm trying to get back into writing, I've got this itch where I really want to just return to publishing books again. And I said, if you ever want to hang out at the clubhouse and just write together, I would love to do that. So she took me up on it a couple weeks after that, and we met up at the clubhouse and just kind of sat out by the pool, and we were talking, getting to know each other and stuff, and did a little bit of writing, but mostly chit chat. What was interesting was, while I was, kind of doing the drive-through, commentary with Raven, I was also looking for a writer's group. Back when I lived in Orlando, and this is probably 15 years ago, and I was very active in writing and publishing books. I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I found this lovely writers group, and the facilitator, her name is Jamie, and there was probably, I think, 7 of us in the group, 7, 8 people, all women, and we were all pretty serious about writing. Most of us were working on some sort of book or second book or third book or whatever. It was an environment that was based on giving writing prompts to stimulate the writing muscles and forward any kind of project we were working on. And I actually got the idea for the Trojan Murders from one of her prompts. And it was just a great thing. So I remembered that, and I was like, oh, I just want to get back to that. I want to, put myself back in this creative space and be with other writers, because there's a very special dynamic that happens when you're working with somebody. You're all focused on writing, and you contribute to each other. You provide feedback, you get ideas, and it's just a wonderful dynamic. I loved it. But what I did was, I was looking online to see if there's a writers group in my area. And I was looking pretty broadly, like I'd say good 50-mile radius. I found one that was in Port St. Lucie, but the more I investigated it, the more I realized it wasn't the right vibe. And I trust my gut on these things. And so I kind of like, no, that's not for me. And so I was a little frustrated that I couldn't find a local writers group. And so I decided to make my own. I found out that my community has this thing called resident-run clubs. So a resident who lives here can actually start their own club and facilitate it. Whether it's like, I want to learn how to be better at darts, so I'm going to start a darts club. My neighbor started a boating club. So if you're a boating enthusiast, right? Going back to when Raven and I were sitting outside writing together, I told her about, I've decided to start my own club. And I said, when we're done here, let's go to the front desk and see how you do it. So we're done writing. We go over to the front desk, and I say, I'd like to start a club. It's a writing club. So they're like, okay, great. Yeah, fill out this paperwork. And they said, you need a co-sponsor. You need another resident in the community to co-sponsor your group. And I turned to Raven and I said, would you like to co-sponsor Verano Writers? She's like, heck yeah. And so we were both amazed. I mean, I'm getting chill bumps just thinking about that day when that happened. It's like, this is what I'm talking about. It's like the universe, when you're doing the right thing, the universe just lays it out for you. And here was Raven, of all the people, my Starbucks barista that I got to know through the drive-through, is actually living in my neighborhood, also a writer, happened to be there with me the day I went up to the desk to start my club, and she co-sponsored it. And the rest is history. So I created a website for it. It's veranowriters.com, and you can go check it out. But what's great about it is it's a butts in chair experience. We meet every Monday from 9 until 10:30. The first session I did was 6 weeks in the theater. And we have this very small room that can seat maybe 40 people, and it has like a staggered seats for basically watching a movie. And they do presentations in there and such. And it's a nice little space. And so they gave that space to me for running this writers group. I did an ad, and they have a newsletter that goes out to the community. Like, these are all the resident run clubs. And there's my ad. And I was so nervous. I was so excited and so nervous. I just limited it to 10. I didn't think it was a good idea to charge for the writers. I just wanted to reduce as much friction as possible because I had no idea if anyone in my community would be even interested in it. And so I put the website together, I built the ad, and I just kind of sat back and held my breath. And then the first newsletter went out. And of course, I told Raven about it, and she signed up. So she was included because she's part of the whole thing. I'd go in and I'd check it. And I really tried to calibrate my expectations. I was like, okay, if I get like 2 people, I'm perfectly happy, like Raven and somebody else, because I wanted to write. I wanted not just to be there in the front of the room giving people prompts and then sitting there waiting. No, I wanted to be in a space with other writers. I wanted to write as well. I wanted to read what I wrote, and I wanted to provide feedback to others and receive feedback for my work. So that's why I created my own writing group. Next thing you know, I had 4, and then I had 5, and then I had 6, and I limited it to 10. Then I had 7, then I had 8, then I had 9, then I had 10, then I had a wait list. So I had somebody on my wait list. So I actually got 11 in that first cohort of my writers group, and I was blown away at the signups. I started the first one, I think it was March 23rd was the first Monday that we did it. And I was so excited. I was all prepared. I went out and got a new journal. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you probably saw a post where I was talking about getting this big journal for my writers group and how I had so much fun coming up with prompts. And I used AI to help me brainstorm some prompts. And I came up with a really good one that was just such a great icebreaker. For the first session, we would do a prompt, and then we'd write for 20 minutes. Then we'd come back and do 20 minutes of feedback and do another prompt and so on. And it worked so great. The people in this group were so diverse, and most of them were recreational writers, or they had written maybe when they were younger and they wanted to get back to it. Or, like Raven, she's writing a wonderful fantasy book, and she just can't seem to find the time to dedicate to it. So this was her opportunity to really start peeling back and doing that. And she had her own series of breakthroughs as well, because she had never read her work to anybody in person, like out loud. That was a big breakthrough moment for her. Everybody else was having their own experience, and it was great. I feel so lucky to have had such good success. And so I scheduled another one. So I'm currently in the second cohort, which is again 6 weeks, but I upped it to 15 people, and I got 16. So the next cohort's going to start in June, and it's going to go 8 weeks. It's going to be 2 hours, and I've upped it to 20. I probably won't go more than 20. And the reason why I kept a certain head count was because I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to read and provide feedback. And when you have that many people, it's kind of hard to do that. Not everybody comes to every single session. Some people have prior commitments or whatever. I've already got some signups for the next one, and we're only in the 3rd week of the second cohort. That's my whole story about Verano Writers. Every Monday, I am so excited. I can't wait to show up in the theater. I can't wait to, give them their prompts. I can't wait to write for myself. And I love providing feedback. I love seeing how everyone's created this kind of really unique bond in reading what they wrote and sharing feedback and the whole experience. And I'm learning a lot about running a group. Pretty cool, huh? What I found really interesting about how it all went down is that I gave myself permission to pursue something. And even though it took a heartache to open myself up to allow that to happen, because I wasn't even considering that beforehand, before the breakup happened, honestly. I was very focused on the relationship and just kind of like living life in that bubble, if you will. And I was denying myself the ability to be creative and to pursue something that really was always kind of in the back room, waiting to happen. And I finally have decided, yeah, it's time to happen. I am writing my 7th book right now. It's in draft. It is nonfiction. And I am so excited to be back to it. And let me tell you what, it's difficult, kind of getting back into the habit. But so far, I hit 13,000 words today. So I'm really excited about the progress of my crappy first draft. But what I want you to think about after hearing my story, and this is sort of like your prompt, right? So the prompt can be around, what am I really yearning to do that I have not given myself permission to do, or given myself the freedom to consider doing, to explore, look at why I'm not moving forward. I will tell you that a lot of it has to do with part logistics for many people, and I'll be talking about all these things in this show, but also just the freedom to be yourself. The signal is all about connecting with your voice and telling the stories and sharing what's in your deepest heart in order to move, entertain, inspire, shift, whatever that is of your readers, your audience. Otherwise, why do it, right? But here's the cool thing, and I may do an episode on this too. I've just got all these ideas. That's what happens when you're dealing with a creative, right? It's not just about sitting down, giving yourself permission, finding your voice, and all the courage. I don't want to belittle that, but it's more than that. The journey of self-discovery that comes with being a writer or being anyone who exercises a creative skill, talent, interest is sublime. When you're in that mode, when you are sitting at the computer and you're telling a story, like this morning I was working on the draft and I just hit this like flow and it was coming out of my fingers and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here? Like, here it comes. Fasten your seatbelts. Here it comes. And I may go back over this in a couple weeks or months or whatever when I'm reviewing or editing the draft. And I may go, oh my God, what was I thinking when I wrote this? But that doesn't matter. It's the sensation, the feeling, the emotion, the experience of being in that flow, of connecting with that source, that voice that you have deep within, and bringing it into reality. And that right there is a beautiful aspect of being a writer or being any kind of creative for that matter. And creative doesn't have to be like in the arts. You can be a creative auto mechanic. You can be a creative bricklayer. You can be a creative computer programmer. The creativity is not in a box. It's human beings exercising a passion, exercising their own skill, their own vision, their own way that they want to look at things, and that's you. The way you look at things is one distinct way of looking at life, at the world, at whatever it is you're focused on. No one else is going to be able to look at it like you do. That's what people, I think, miss, especially in this world where we get so much communication thrown at us and so many ideas and so many buy this and so many go here and do that and people telling us what to do and trying to find our place in the world and be more about exercising that talent and that interest. So you look at me getting all philosophical and stuff on this. Can you tell I really care a lot about it? Anyway, so I want to leave you with that. Sit down and give yourself this prompt. What am I wanting to do that I'm not giving myself permission to do? It can be about writing. It can be about expanding or starting a business. It can be about creating a series of content on social media that something you've wanted to share your opinion about or inspire people about for a long time that you just haven't had the cojones to sit down in front of a camera and do. Whatever that is, make a list of the reasons why you're not doing it. Sit down and really explore that. And say, at the end, once you've kind of got it all out, like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was really holding back on that. What I want you to do is do the what if. So the second part, I want you to say, well, what if I did do that? What would happen? And I think you will be amazed at what comes out. So go ahead and check that prompt out and let me know how it goes. And I'll see you in the next episode.